Sent off my babies today. The last of my men, my boys, are officially gone. Packed them all up this morning. That last group of 6 sent on their way at like 10 o'clock this morning. And then now I am here all by my lonesome. This is the start of like 3 months where I have a lot less things to do, which is going to be both good because I just did 30 weeks in fucking overdrive, doing as many things as I could, like 50-hour weeks back to back times 25. So now we're going to get a big old break, a lot less work to do. Going to have to find plenty of things to fill my time. Getting my Certified Associate in Project Management certification. So a lot of that studying and getting my level 2, all that happening while I'm at work because it's continuing education. So that is work. Because it's benefiting the U.S. Army, benefiting the organization. So that is great. Yeah, my boys are gone. They compete next weekend, so I'll spend basically all my Thursday, Friday, and then my weekend just watching the competition. So that'll be a good use of my hours that day is because I can't go there. Government shot me down. They said no way. But it is all good. So they are gone. I am now back to training in the afternoon, so back to training at home. It's 80 degrees here, so it's going to be a little toasty. I'm not acclimatized to that weather yet. Did my last hour work outside in the sun today. Spent all morning in the sun, so trying to get used to it. But on that beautiful segue there, creativity. Coaches need to be creative. A lot of coaches you'll hear get into this just purely from the science side, and whether it be, they're not great talking to people, so they're getting onto the science side, or they're not great at being creative, so they get into coaching for the science side. The issue with that is, in order to actually be a good coach, you need to be fairly creative. A lot of things come back to creativity. When we talk about how do we get an athlete to learn a new position, how do we get an athlete to get better at the sports, how you're actually choosing the exercise selection to go about doing that requires a shit ton, a metric shit ton, not just a imperial shit ton, but a metric shit ton of creativity. Coming up with variations besides just powers, hangs, and blocks, like actually coming up with complexes or different variations that target a specific thing that is just not the same shit that everyone else does, is a very creative task. Like whether you're doing like floating toes, I had with someone recently, going EMOMs, a little creative, waves, as few perfect sets as possible, something I've had quite a few people do recently. EMOMs back and forth, powers to full, plenty of different things there, but it requires you to actually be creative. Beyond that, when you're looking at the human body, again, there is no gold standard technique by any stretch of the imagination. There's going to be some benchmarks we need to hit, some things that we need to do, some balancing of pressure that everyone is going to need to do, but how that actually plays out is going to be very person dependent. So actually using your brain and looking at it where there is not just one single technical model. One single technical model works great for people who are super living in the research and not having to be creative or use their brain at all. But if you have a normal person who does not lift like every other normal person, then you're going to have to get creative looking at their technique, trying to figure out what things actually need to be changed, what things are fine to be, what things to focus on first, so on and so forth. So there is quite a lot of creativity that actually goes into coaching if you want to be good at it. But again, a lot of people get into this field because they aren't good with people and they aren't good with being creative. They're good with just the science. The unfortunate part they will realize once they realize they can't get a job or they don't make any money in this field is it's a very person forward, face forward position that requires mass amounts of creativity. Now, we're not fucking artists. I'm not going to go that far. Like, we're not painting a fucking Picasso. But it does require some semblance of creativity and some semblance of using your brain and thinking of different outcomes. Like, that's all creativity is. It's just using your brain to picture different outcomes and picture different things you could do to get different outcomes. And the super scientific way to say that is more or less creativity. And I think every person, when you put it that way, like every science person at least, trained exercise science person, is going to be like, oh yeah, I'm super good at that. Like, yeah, that's just fucking creativity. Being creative is part of your job, whether you like it or not. Like, people want strength and conditioning or coaching just in general to be a very straightforward science-based approach. But it ends up being a lot more like a liberal arts than anything. Like, it is an art. It is an art and a science. But honestly, like, a lot of shit you learn in your exercise science degree is like good base knowledge, but in your day-to-day, not super applicable. Like, I use 2 classes from my undergrad in my day-to-day. That is anatomy and physiology, and then motor learning. Those are the only 2 classes that I actually still use to this day on a daily basis. Everything else is like hit or miss. I fucking group X teaching, haven't used that a day in my life, just because I'm not going to teach step aerobics. I never desired to do that, and I hope I never do have to do that again. I hated that class. But you got to be creative. You got to actually like be person forward and like have a personality beyond just weightlifting. Like, that is one of the questions I now have for all my athletes, that weightlifting is a very mentally grueling sport. And if you are not a Team USA athlete or even striving for that, and if you do not have any hobbies outside of weightlifting, you're probably going to burn out, just because you need something else. Like, weightlifting fucking sucks a lot of the time. It's very mentally demanding. If you don't have anything else, you're going to burn out. Completely different tangent there. But at the end of the day, be creative. Like, there is a lot more art and a lot more like a liberal art side degree to coaching than people want to give it credit for. So be creative, be artistic.